watching the POLCAST. Good evening, North America.
And welcome to the POLCAST. It is Saturday, January 18th, one day before inauguration. And for me, this is the most important inauguration of my lifetime. There have been a couple of hiccups that have seemed to shifted the inauguration into the tundra of the Capitol, and there are some people that think that it's not due to the weather. There may be some other things involved that are making sure that they're taking security very seriously, and I definitely second that. So we thought we'd come in here today and have a little conversation about some things, some observations of the world around us as it pertains to Monday's events, and break it down as best we can with our insight and our experience. So we've got some caballeros in here today, and as of late, we've got the Colonel back in here again. So Colonel, why don't you say hello to everybody? And we also brought in Larry the Cable Guy today. And we are also fortunate to have both Mr. White and Mr. Black in here today as well. Oh, is that mic? I don't think that mic's on. Did I turn it off? We'll have to start the whole fucking show over again. No, I'm just kidding. We're good.
Radio check.
Okay, that was my fault. I will push for that. I had it on mute, so I apologize, gentlemen.
Boo!
I got one right off the bat. Okay, welcome in everybody to the POLCAST, and like I said, we're a day away from inauguration, and there's a lot of interesting things that have kind of happened. One thing is like 80% of the country during this event is going to be in like this Arctic blast, and there have been some other inaugurations where temperatures were colder. 85, I believe, was one of them, and I guess there was one before, and it was Reagan's as well, where it was, what did that be, 1980? Is that right, 1980?
85? I think
Well, that one, but the one, his first inauguration, I think it was 22 degrees, so that would have been 1980, is that right? I thought it was the second one. Or is the second one? I can't remember.
Google
it. Either way, it's going to be cold on Monday. We all know that.
Larry's the only one old enough to remember that one.
Yeah. But you know what? Hey, there ain't nothing wrong with that, you know. And I think most of us in here would say that we should be hearing from people that are a little older than us. They have experience and they've been
Absolutely.
there, and can remind us of the things and maybe even a simpler time not too long ago. So with that being said, one of the first things that we were going to hit on. Oh, we didn't bring it in. That's okay. Next time. We'll do another. We're going to do another gun episode where we get a little more in depth. Maybe even do some video on the range, like the Colonel and I did a couple years ago. But for today's show, we're kind of focus in on the inauguration. Maybe touch on a little bit what's going on still in California with the wildfires. There's some other interesting things that happened there, namely the lithium battery plant just north of. I should know this. I used to live out there by Salinas, Monterey, just north of Monterey. I think it's Moss Landing is the name of it. But apparently that's one of the largest lithium plants in the country. There's also still people freezing out on the East Coast, and FEMA still seems to be dragging their feet with that. So, like I had said, we're going to mainly cover things that have to do with the inauguration. And one of the first things I wanted to play is a pretty cool video of CBS News doing a flyby of the D.C. area and they're riding with an NBC team, I guess you could say, that looks for radioactive material.
Nuclear, biological, chemical.
Yep, NBC, and they've been hot and heavy over the course of the last 2 weeks that I've looked into. So I got a little video I wanted to play for the folks at home so they can kind of see from a bird's eye view what exactly it looks like flying 150 feet over Washington, D.C.
Crane to your left. Got it.
From only 150 feet in the air, pilots dodge buildings,
And tower to your left side. Got it.
flying in a grid over the National Mall to scan for radiological or nuclear irregularities, threats like dirty bombs.
So you're trying to create a blueprint of what the radiation in Washington, D.C. looks like ahead of the inauguration. Correct.
Department of Energy scientist Jacqueline Brandon calls this low-flying helicopter one of just 2 of its kind, her office.
If we find a radiological irregularity, we'll investigate it even further.
Highly sensitive technology sets off alarms in the air.
That's an alarm.
That is an alarm. It's a slight variation in our spectra is what it's saying.
On the ground, a mission led and meticulously rehearsed by the U.S. Secret Service at their training facility in Maryland.
This right here where we're standing is Pennsylvania Avenue.
Today it is Pennsylvania Avenue. Tomorrow it will become a speed racetrack for some of our uniformed division officers that are coming through.
Agents role-playing worst-case scenarios.
Can we try a vehicle having a flat tire? Can we try someone having a heart attack? These are all the things we want to mentally prepare for because we have an immediate action for all those things.
Michael Thomas is the coordinator for the big day.
This is the largest event for the U.S. Secret Service in history.
It is. The amount of fencing and the amount of personnel that we bring in for this inauguration eclipses all other inaugurations that we have.
About 25,000 law enforcement and military personnel will safeguard the inauguration, including 7,800 National Guard authorized to protect the nation's capital and its 250,000 ticketed guests. Throughout the city, a ring of steel, 30 miles of anti-scale fencing. And along the icy Potomac, more than 25 Coast Guard vessels lined up.
Ready to deploy.
Ready to deploy.
Captain Patrick Burkett says teams are now prepping frozen waterways for patrol after a recent storm.
That put a lot of strain and stress on our resources and our personnel, and everyone knew that January was going to be a busy month.
Dubbed a national special security event demanding the highest level of federal protection, the inauguration comes just days after 2 others, January 6th electoral count and former President Jimmy Carter's funeral.
We had 3 national special security events in the course of 15 days.
Yeah.
I mean, that's never happened before.
No. As in a year of unprecedented events, this just continued to keep us going on the unprecedented events. We feel like we have a very good plan. We feel very confident that we are going to provide a very secure environment.
For CBS Mornings, I'm Nicole Skenga in Washington.
Did she say her name was Nicole Skanka or Skanga? I didn't quite hear it. It's impressive. I think they said 25,000 National Guard, or was it police, and a combination of National Guard, police, and other law enforcement. Every state basically is sending law enforcement or National Guard to assist with the ceremony. It seems like also that they're definitely prepared for any type of civil unrest or shenanigans that might happen. And I really think personally it's too cold for any of the, like BLMs or some of these other leftist organizations that would come in and try to maybe stir the pot a little bit. You guys got any thoughts on that? Bueller? Nobody?
They don't like cold weather.
Nobody likes cold weather. I know I don't like cold weather either.
It's not the BLM fighting season right now.
Well, there's a lot to that. I mean, we know how lazy the Taliban can be, or they don't like fighting.
Season.
Yeah, they don't like fighting during the cold, and I'm sure a bunch of purple-haired, overweight,
LA firefighters.
LA firefighters probably don't like doing a lot of work in the snow either. So I got a slide for the inauguration. I'm going to pull that up real quick. We can take a peek at this. And just a couple of quick observations. The one thing that I just kind of freaks me out a little bit, because I'm one of those conspiracy theorists when it comes to things like 9/11. And we got another video we're going to play from it was an interview done by Alex Jones with I think he's a pastor, but he's also kind of known as a semi-prophet, because he was very he predicted that Trump would get shot a couple months before he did in Butler, Pennsylvania, and the way he described it, he literally laid out exactly what happened. So premonition, maybe luck, I don't know, but we're going to play that video a little bit later. The thing that I found interesting about that guy and his current predictions that he's making is he seems to think that all hell's going to break loose, possibly starting tomorrow. And tomorrow is Trump's victory rally, the Make America Great Again victory rally, which will be held in D.C. at the Capital One Arena. And for those of us that know a little bit about symbolism and the way that evil works, they always flip everything upside down and twist it. And one of the comments that this I think it's Brandon Briggs had made is that, you look at the date for tomorrow's event, falls on the 19th, but if you shift the numbers around and flip them or invert them, it actually kind of reads like 9/11. So a lot of conspiracy theorists out there are saying, this could possibly be the catalyst for some horrific event, terrorist activity to happen on American soil. And another slide that I'm going to bring up has to do with, did any of you guys want to comment on this at all?
As far as the victory rally?
Yes, or anything that's on this slide in particular?
Civilians can't carry in D.C., right?
I don't think you can.
There, right? Like a rifle or a pistol?
I'm not for sure on that. I wouldn't doubt it, though. I mean...
like New York City, you can't even carry like a knife longer than 4 inches in New York City.
Really?
Yeah, something like that. I could be mistaken. Usually not, but... Anyways,
well, you're not supposed to, but
so my concern is like the security.
Yeah.
Like, the
well, in that video too, she said 250,000 tickets have been issued already.
That's a lot of people.
250,000? That
Yeah.
doesn't sound right.
That is quite a lot of people for
25,000.
No, they said 250,000 tickets have been issued. I did see something where
Is that for an indoor stadium or an arena?
it would be the entire, because I think what they do is they section off the entire mall area.
Oh, okay.
And so DC already is kind of, well, it's a city state, and it's kind of like how the Vatican is. I mean, they don't have a wall around the city, but it's
their own police.
Yes.
Yep.
They even have their own constitution. They don't fall under the U.S. Constitution in D.C. And so essentially they've created just miles and miles of a barrier city to, obviously have gates for people to get through and check for firearms and things like that. And I think one of the big concerns, and I'm going to pull up the next slide.
So in D.C., carrying a firearm is heavily regulated. It's legal for residents and visitors to own firearms. Carrying them in public, either openly or concealed, requires a special permit.
Okay.
So you can't open carry or conceal carry any type of firearm
in D.C.
Yep.
But you can grow marijuana in D.C. I do know that. Which
so that does bring up like security concerns, right? Because you're only going to be able to do so much as a police, unless like you were to deploy the National Guard and have, like checkpoints every so intersection or whatnot. But
I think too, even looking at that video, we know somebody that was there 4 years ago. Do you know who I'm referring to? He's married to a short blonde girl that we know. And he was there for the inauguration, actually January 6th.
I'm drawing a blank.
He's you've worked with him before. He's a real big turd. He's got blonde hair. His name starts with a B. and it ends with "en it."
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Now, okay, so last inauguration, there was nobody there. Literally, like I forgot to upload that video. There was like 200 people actually witnessing on the ground the inauguration. There was more reporters there than there was anybody, except for military. And we knew somebody who was there. And one of the things that he told me I thought was really interesting is that he was getting an ROE brief by somebody not in his chain of command, by some woman, he said, that came in that he did not know. They had his whole company there.
Yep.
And they're giving him a brief. And they give him his ROEs. And essentially, from our conversation, what I can remember, he said that they told him that if they felt threatened, that they could engage any protesters. And that was it. There was no real depth to the rules of engagement.
Nope.
And
I said, so you were actually, so just to clarify here, I said, so you were authorized to shoot American civilians unarmed, and you were going to do that? And he's like, well, yeah, I mean, that's what I was told. I was like, okay.
But didn't his
good job, dude.
Thank God, though, he had a squad leader that actually had some experience, and he had said that, and he had told him, he said, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
He goes, do not do that. And I know he mentioned that the guy had a couple tours in Afghanistan. I think he was E6 or something, but at least he had, he could kind of decipher or kind of weed through the bullshit that they were being told about rules of engagement. So I thought that was very interesting. In the video, the one thing I noticed in seeing all these troops march into D.C., getting ready for the parade and everything, is they're from all over the country. So there's no uniformity with their uniforms. They're all kind of look like a bag of donuts, and then nobody's carrying firearms. And I don't know if that's traditionally how they do these proceedings or the inauguration, but yeah, you've got to show a force of 25,000 troops, but none of them are armed anyway. I mean, the law enforcement's armed, which is good. But that kind of threat, and we'll once we play the Brandon Biggs video, because he had brought up some interesting things about ammonium nitrate, trucks smashing into barriers. But before I get to that, the other concern with tomorrow being the 19th is this latest update from a Chinese drone company. And I'm going to read it real quick. Chinese drone maker DJI announced a software update this week for operators in the U.S. They are taking the guardrails off of their drones. From January 13th, the geofencing function, which prevents the drones from flying into restricted areas, such as airports and military bases, will no longer operate. Instead, when flying in a restricted area, the drone will simply issue a warning message to the operator. And they're saying that they're placing the control back in the hands of the drone operator. And personally, I think it sounds very convenient that they're doing this at this particular time. And I was just reading an article the other day about how, China has no problem with North Korea being involved in Ukraine, because obviously it's eating up our resources. And that's, to me, looking at them as an adversary, I would think they would want us to continue as long as they can to kind of drain our resources. And then, we had the news last week about TikTok being banned. And that, I think that takes effect today, if I'm not mistaken. Does anybody have a definite on that? I think it's either today or tomorrow. It's supposed to. So I'm like, what does that mean? Does it mean it's just shuts down completely?
Yeah, I heard rumblings that Trump may use the executive order to override that.
Really?
Yep. There is an argument to be made possibly that if not for TikTok, he may not have won.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big part.
And then
connecting with the younger generations, TikTok.
He's got. I think Elon had a lot to do with that too. But it's interesting that there is two high-profile Chinese actors Chinese nationals that will be present at the inauguration. And maybe it's to kind of grease the wheels a little bit to, put pressure on Trump and say, hey, we're willing to work with you, but, don't shut down TikTok. And go ahead.
So what I heard was that they're not going to shut
We
it
have
down.
Larry, the cable guy. Go ahead, Larry.
So they're not going to shut it down, but Android and Apple are going to take it off their Play stores. So you won't be able to download it again.
So, but in really, what other options do you have if you don't have Android or Apple?
There is not.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that's just for the U.S. market as of now.
So, Mike, you're going to have to go back to Hot or Not if they ban TikTok.
Well, I'm still on Poof and
Only feet.
on Only Feet, and
Have you seen his feet?
also, I've got feet like it looks like an alligator had mated with an eagle.
Like a hobbit?
You got
Yeah,
You got gargoyle feet.
Yeah, gargoyle feet. I have more hair on the bottom of my feet than I do on the top of my head, if that's any indicator of what I'm working with.
Can you still hang from a tree branch with your toes?
I cannot. Okay. No. The years of rucking with 80 pounds of weight on my back. Like in the Marines, I used to hate rucking, and then going to the Army, I was like, these guys don't ruck. I always see them in vehicles. And then, go to the Q course, and it's like, that's all we did was ruck.
Yep.
It was terrible. Anyway, so looking at that drone video or the slide on the drones, it also led me to put together this other. Do you guys have any comments on that last slide at all? Before I move on to the next one,
Drones?
with the drones.
I mean,
It seems kind of convenient though that at this particular time with all the drone activity we've had, even going back 2 years when we knew about those blimps that were flying over getting blown over the U.S. And it wasn't until actually people started making a big enough fuss that they did anything about it.
because I'm assuming that control for the no-fly zones, that should be like a U.S. implementation, a U.S. law, right? So can China just turn that off?
I don't know. I do find 2 days ago they're doing some road work on 90, and I'm taking my kids to school, and they have these caution lights set up with have you seen them over on 90 where they have the arm that goes down?
Yeah.
And then it'll automatically go up. Well, my car is a 2015. It's not very tech savvy, and I wasn't even really paying attention to it, but I was parked. I was the first car in front of that caution light where they're doing road work, and it started to go up, so I was getting ready to move, and I tried driving. All of a sudden, my brakes engaged. And I look on my display screen, and it says, safety brake engaged by outside entity. Mm-hmm. And it was the pulse that was shooting some kind of frequency into my vehicle, and it engaged my brakes. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what the hell just happened? And so then I'm thinking about something like this with these drones, and for them to take down all this geofencing, really the only way you would be able to target one of these drones to bring it down then is you'd have to shoot it with some type of frequency, like a frequency gun or something.
Drone buster.
Yeah. And I mean, I better not say that because it was in Afghanistan. I'll just say that there's stuff out there that kind of look like it would be a ray gun, kind of what that we did in the last episode with the small handheld direct energy weapon. But this is to target drones. And I look at, well, what's tomorrow? Tomorrow's the 19th, and there's a lot of football on. And it seems like it just seems very convenient. I'm not hoping anything bad happens. I'm praying that nothing bad happens. But you take down these geofences. I can't tell you how many videos I've seen come out of Ukraine where these guys are running. They got an AK and they're shooting at a drone that's just dive bombing them, and it hits them, and they've got no chance. Maybe if they had a shotgun or something. So you take all these restrictions down, these geofences that kind of protect these sensitive sites, like an airport, a military base.
It's going to create a lot of like passive terrorism.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even
because there are crazy fucking people out there that have drones.
Yeah.
They would love nothing more than to just fly it into an airliner that's about to take off right into the jet engine.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like $200, $300 drone just took down.
Well, and
$1 million jet with 180, 200 people on it, and then that's a form of terrorism right there.
Absolutely.
They didn't even have to do anything but a software update.
Yep.
And I would assume surely there'd be some type of, how would we reciprocate?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, not only that, what me and Mr.
Or
Black were
rather
talking about right before, with we got a lot of sports arenas in the country. A lot of them will be filled tomorrow, and
100 of these with fucking explosives attached.
you could do a lot of damage. And then I hate to say it, but I think Mr. White's right as far as like the ill intent behind somebody that you could do this very easily.
Mm-hmm.
And the drone capabilities they have on the civilian market. I mean, I've seen some of these drones can hold like a 10 to 20 pound package, and it wouldn't be that hard just to fly it over, into an arena and just dive bomb it into us. I'm not trying to give people ideas, but these are real threats. I mean, some of us in here have seen that kind of stuff firsthand. When it
Just imagine like a 20-pound pipe bomb.
Yep. Getting flung at you by some aerial machine.
A pressure switch on it, you just dive it straight in, and then the nose collapses and completes a circuit.
So, well, and I guess one of the other questions is, well, people would hope that Americans wouldn't do this to other Americans, but maybe it's not Americans that are doing it. Maybe there are, I don't know, military that are somehow got here that did some type of rat line, I guess you could say, into the country, and are just prepositioning themselves to kick off some type of nefarious activity. And the first thing that comes to mind is, well, we know there are quite a few bad actors that came through the southern border over the last couple years during the Biden stewardship. And right there at the top, these are numbers from ICE themselves. 13,000 immigrants convicted of homicide or living outside of immigration detention in the United States. And those numbers are from the last 4 years. There's a guy, he's been on Jesse Waters' show, Alex Jones, does a lot of work with former Green Beret Michael Young down in the Darien Gap. And he's the one who actually, in this Fox report, saying that he filmed hundreds of military-aged Chinese men heading towards the U.S. in these migrant groups. And down in the Darien Gap, I know firsthand that I've seen the video of the infrastructure they have down there, and we've talked on it in previous shows, that the Chinese have one of the best setups for infrastructure in the Darien Gap. And they are mainlining essentially their people through the Darien Gap on a fast track to the U.S. southern border.
Are you sure they're not trying to just get on American Idol?
They might, but is that even a thing anymore? I don't know. It seems more like it definitely seems like American Idol with everything that's going on. But just those numbers right there from 2021 to 2024, a 7,000% increase in just Chinese nationals. And if you could see that picture on the top there, you notice, I don't know if the Border Patrol agents seen that thing up on the hill over there. You see that kind of horsey sitting up on the hill? Looks kind of like a Trojan horse, maybe. And I don't remember the story quite about. Does anybody really remember that about the Trojan horse? Did they just bring those people on the Trojan horse because they hopped out of the horse and then they were just there to vote, or were they there to wreck shop?
Yeah. Yep.
And cause some real problems? And this is all speculation, obviously, and hopefully none of this stuff comes to reality. But these are things that people should be aware of, especially in the next couple days before, God willing, Trump takes office on Monday. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that video of Mr. Biggs. It's about a 5-minute video, and I'm just going to let it play so folks can hear the predictions that this guy's making over this gentleman made a prediction that Trump was going to get shot, and he pretty much said he was going to get shot close to the head, like maybe nick the ear, and he made this prediction several months ago. So in the last week or so, he's come out with another prediction, and he did an interview on Alex Jones, and I'm just going to touch on the highlights from that interview. And like I said, it's about 5 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and play that now.
Lord showed me them gathering the materials for making these bombs for over a year. And so they were getting the fertilizers and the vans, and I saw dump trucks. So the Lord showed me that they made them like bulletproof. They put like armor all on the front and on the sides. So if they were going through police barricades or whatever, that they would not be stopped by bullets or any kind of retaliation against them. So they made them like tanks. And so they put all this fertilizer and stuff when they're in this vision. What the Lord showed me, it was very detailed, and I saw them split up all of the fertilizer, and they made it into compartments. It looked like 50-gallon drums, but it was humongous, barrels in these back of these huge diesel dump trucks. And so then I saw two men in those dump trucks, and they had suicide vests on. They had vests on with this explosive devices all over their vest. And so they used the trucks to go through police barricades. So you couldn't stop them. It was very powerful what they were trying to do, shooting out their tires and stuff. But this was, like I'm saying, this was well funded. And so when they took the trucks, they rammed them through the barricades, and when they finally stopped them, they ignited their vest and blew up the whole area, and it wiped out all the buildings. And it was, if you think what happened in Oklahoma City was big, this was like so much more, like a huge 9/11 type event, y'all. And so, but it wasn't just one. The Lord showed me that it was over 1,000 men, and there was 10 major cities. There was 10 cities, the Lord told me. And so all the cities were had a target of like a Trump Tower or a Trump golf course or something that, was important of our, our heritage. Like the Statue of Liberty was a target. And I thought, why the Statue of Liberty? It doesn't have a lot of people around it, but it represents freedom. It represents something that's important to us. And so I saw them go in and they try to take that out. I saw over what's the gardens over? I'm sorry, son. The Madison Square Garden. Yeah. I saw them attacking that. I saw them attacking Chicago. I saw them attacking Houston area, Dallas area. I saw them trying to attack Oklahoma City, LA, Seattle. There was a lot of cities. Instead of just going over all 10 of them, because it's kind of, this is actually an invasion of an act of war for what I believe is coming. It's not like, we're going to say, this is Al-Qaeda, this is ISIS. This is actually Iranian government coming over here. They've come across the border. I saw them in tunnels that were being smuggled in by drug traffickers. And I saw tunnels. What the Lord showed me is these it looked like metal-looking structures, and they were underneath the earth, and they were actually going from Mexico into America into these like houses, and they were smuggling like they would do for human trafficking and drugs and all that. Well, I saw these men, and there's literally 1,000 of them. I saw over 1,000 men that were being smuggled in, and I'm talking big money. This was not just like a little bit of money that I saw that they were paying the drug smugglers and for funding to get over here. But the Lord told me, he said, I want you to focus on fertilizer. And I didn't know what he was saying at the time because I saw these like farming equipment, and I was like, Lord, what are you showing me? And all of a sudden I saw because it was like silos, but he was trying in a vision, he's trying to show me what's coming. So I saw a fertilizer, and the Lord said, I want you to remember Timothy McVeigh and remember what happened in Oklahoma City. They take vans, and I saw the vans, and they had all kinds of different vans because the vans weren't as trackable. You see a big dump truck going down the road, you're going to know it. It's kind of like, if especially it's parked it's mysterious. There was just a couple of those, but there was a lot of vans. I noticed that, those white cargo vans, and they filled the back of those vans full of highly explosive fertilizer. And they set those off in like parking garages. They try to get as close as they could to Trump buildings, to Trump hotels, and and they used drones. And the Lord showed me that they would try to attack with drones. They would use the drones to go into the stadiums and things that they could fly into. And I saw them taking those and running them into crowds in the stadiums, and they exploded and took out a whole section of people because people weren't expecting, you're watching the football game or the baseball game or whatever. And so people were not paying attention to what's going on. And so they flew the drone in, and they just set the thing off in the middle of the stadium, and it killed, thousands of people, it looked like. And so during the inauguration, the Lord said, you must pray for the inauguration, which I don't know if they're going to have it outside or not. Now, I've been praying that he would not do the parade, and he will not do the event on the 19th, which I think is really interesting is that one of my subscribers pointed out, he said, do you see that it's 119 backwards? It's 9/11.
Okay, so we kind of touched on some of those things that he had mentioned, and he was pretty close in his original prediction on Trump, and I thought it would be interesting just to kind of hear what he's saying now and this new prediction that he has. Which, I mean, if you just look at what's been going on, you can kind of deduce a lot of that yourself. The thing I find very interesting, though, are the whole drone topic, and then what we showed as far as a drone company removing these geofences, where now you have the ability to do kind of what he was saying. In addition to that, this slide, he had talked about a lot of ammonium nitrate. Now, I just read an update about this story back in, I want to say August, and they still do not know what happened to these 30 tons of ammonium nitrate. And as you can see right here, so then when this was the little segment, I'll read that. It's been more than 16 months, and like I said, this was back in August timeframe roughly, so 60 months at that point. So add on September, October, November, December, January, essentially, too. So we're way past that. Chemical used in explosives in Wyoming coal mines. Left Cheyenne's Dino Noble factory on the western edge of the city April 12th, 2023, and disappeared a few days later in the deserts of Central California. On Wednesday, the Federal Railroad Administration, the FRA, told Cowboy State Daily that an investigation of the circumstances of the missing chemicals remains open and ongoing. So in early July, Cowboy State Daily visited the site in Saltdale, California, in the middle of the Mojave Desert, to get a firsthand look at the location where it was first discovered the chemical was missing. All very interesting. I mean, how does 30 tons of ammonium nitrate just go missing from a train? That seems to be like there would be a lot of logistical parts there that you would have. I mean, you would have to get trucks. We would know, I would think, if one of these trains derailed and it dumped all over the side of a hill or something like that, but nothing. Especially with all the like chemical spills that we've had as of late.
Just to help paint the picture, that's 60,000 pounds.
That is a lot of weight.
Yep.
You just, I mean, I would imagine it has to be several railroad cars. So how do you move that?
Yep.
And
A lot of logistics.
yeah,
Did the whole train disappear or just the chemicals?
just the chemicals.
Someone's got to know something.
No, that's not normal. And for there, to be no movement on it, I just don't see how. I mean, go ahead.
And this is just to kind of play the devil's advocate here. Remember the explosion in Beirut?
Yeah.
A couple years back?
Yep.
That was 2,750 tons. So to contrast, this really isn't that much.
Yeah. I mean, but that explosion looked
was
like a nuclear bomb going
Yeah,
off.
it was one of the biggest non-nuclear explosives in human history.
And how much was that again?
2,750 tons.
Wow, that is
Yeah,
that's a lot.
You're talking, what is that? Almost 30 times this.
Yeah.
40 times this. I'm terrible at math, but
But that definitely did some damage to somebody.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
In the right hands, you could definitely wield that into a weapon of destruction.
And I wonder how much. Has moved throughout the states over the course of a year,
Mm-hmm.
and compared to that.
And knowing people that may have not went to an HME course, it is really easy to make plastic explosives with the right chemicals.
Yep.
If you can follow a cooking recipe to bake a cake,
You can make some explosives.
Absolutely.
Also,
it's that easy.
You compound that with the dust initiator theory.
Yep.
And that makes things go.
Isn't that what happened in Beirut?
No, so I don't know a lot about it, but essentially it had been improperly stored for years, and it just became very unstable. And it was like the right mixture of humidity, heat, and it just caused it to blow up. I don't think
There was ill intent behind it, or just mismanagement of.
Yeah, it was just Middle Eastern country. With
Yeah.
not the same rules and regulations and safety standards and building codes that we have over here.
They're gonna let that sit out there for a while.
Yeah.
But but here in the United States, you would think that we would we would have a better track record of keeping accountability. At a minimum, the company, Dyno Noble, holding them accountable.
Absolutely.
But there has literally been nothing about this. Kind of like until today, I think, Larry, you had mentioned, to kind of switch topics real quick, because we haven't heard anything about another story, which was the Matt Berg. His wife, you said she had come out today and had
denied everything that they were saying about her husband. Yeah.
Really? Do you know if they denied or she denied any involvement with converting to Islam?
No, she didn't mention that. Just that was their son. They were happy, and everything that they were saying about him, they were making it up.
It was bullshit.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, just to kind of give a little update on that. As far as another update, I'm going to go ahead and bring up another slide because apparently the fires are still raging out in LA. And that this is from yesterday. I got this from the newspaper. The LAPD has arrested 14 people in or near fire zones, and the sheriff's department has arrested 39. Now, they didn't give any breakdown of who these people were. And the last show that the colonel and I did, I had pointed out an individual that, I'm profiling him, but I'm Hispanic too, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Yeah, he looked Hispanic.
What a
and the thing is that, that guy had multiple cell phones on him. He had a debit card that was connected to the United Nations, which leads me to believe he was coming through the Darien Gap. He was getting that card issued to him. And why would he be trying to start fires? Was it that somebody was like, hey, I'll fill up your debit card. You go ahead and do this, do a little fire here, do a little of this, little of that, and we'll take care of you. Was it something like that? And So I'm interested to find out, and I'm going to look into a little bit more. These other 39 individuals, who are they? What's their background? What's their story essentially? And are they people that crossed the southern border illegally, or are they Americans? Just left-wing loons? And but that's kind of been shrouded in mystery at this point. So
maybe one day we'll get some people in here that know something about the Darien Gap.
I would love to talk to somebody about the Darien's Gap, but that's not today.
Inside joke.
And then the question is: are these Los Angeles wildfires, are they linked to any smart city development?
Ooh,
I think we had talked about burning people out. How do you get people out of an area that you want to develop? Well, and then I heard something written. I don't know if it's true, but there's an investor that has a connection to, it's either BlackRock or Blackstone. Is it BlackRock? That they had people going around, families are returning to their burned out house or their chunk of property that's left and being approached by alleged investors from BlackRock and saying, we will give you this amount right now for your land.
But don't you worry, Gavin Newsom's gonna take.
He's going to protect those folks.
Yep.
So that's what I've read. Like I said, I'm speculating on that. I don't know for sure if that's true. But now, if we shift and we go north a little bit, up by north of Monterey, we had this last week. We had the largest battery plant in California caught fire, and this is another speculation on my part, because you got to take everything on the X machine with a little bit of a grain of salt. There were reports of Chinese nationals being spotted in and around the Moss Landing power plant area. And they allegedly have these guys on video, kind of probing the lines and looking for weaknesses to enter that facility. And I guess from what they're saying, start these fires. Now, that's not proven. It's just speculation. But there just seems to be too much going on at once, and especially at such close proximity to Los Angeles. And it just, if you smell smoke, there's probably something burning. And go ahead, Mr. Wright.
No, it's like, this is unfortunate. This is terrible. Like, what's going on over there.
What, comparing Beavis and Butthead to those two?
Yeah.
But, absolutely. He'll be here all week, folks.
Like, you look at everything going on in California, and as painful as it is to say this, wise man once said, you get exactly what you vote for.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how much of all of the DEI, all that has seeped down into every single part of California. From you guys, I'm sure you've seen it. The videos of the LA County Fire Chief talking about the $18 million.
Save me.
Cut, the empty water reservoirs, the
empty no pressure in the fire hydrants, just total mismanagement.
And probably easily, arguably the most fire hazardous county in the country, I would assume. They're giving away excess fire equipment to Ukraine. It's like, there should be no such thing as excess fire equipment if you're in the most dangerous county when it comes to fires.
Yep.
Right. So, yeah. Unfortunately, you get exactly what you vote for.
It's
this is case in point of when you replace competency with diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Absolutely.
Just gross incompetence.
And speaking of that, I think Monday also is Martin Luther King Day, and I think he was advocating for something like judge somebody on the content of their character, not their DEI, attributes, which should never be.
The DEI firefighter that was that went on talking about
The one with no legs?
just gonna roll in and save you.
There is one on the not the bee. They did. They had this firefighter. He was one of the fire chiefs too, and he had no legs. Yeah. And it was kind of was mocking that pig in the L.A. fire department who I mean, like your whole job is to help people when they are at their worst, and for her to say, "Well, I'm not. That's not my job to help you when you're at your worst in a fire scenario." It's like it's what Mr. White said. It's like a DEI hire. You cannot see the forest through the trees, and I think that they love having people, these puppets that they can manipulate, that you can't see the forest through the trees, that are being used as tools in not just destroying the infrastructure, but also destroying people's like our ability to, well, one, respect these individuals, but we're not like we have no faith in them, essentially. And it destroys our faith in the system and leads people to, well, I mean, if you have the capability, you should get out of the area first off. But if you can't, and you're kind of stuck in that environment, what do you do? Because I know personally, I wouldn't put up with it. I'd try to get out as soon as I could.
Yep. Marx called them the useful idiots.
Yeah, the mouth breathers.
And they don't understand that once they're no longer useful, they will be squashed.
Mm-hmm. And like what Mr. White said, it's like, oh, I invited these cannibals into my house. I can't believe they're chewing on me. It's like, they're cannibals. That's what they do. They're gonna chew you up and eat you. So I think I have one more. Was that the last slide? Actually, that was the last slide. So we went through actually those pretty quick. Before we move into the next, we have one more video that I'm going to show. And this is kind of for my own personal benefit. But out of all the information that we shared today, the biggest thing for me is to just make sure that people understand that we are in a very precarious moment in time where things could shift very badly. And that people need to be aware of that and make sure you are keeping your head on a swivel, and God willing, Trump does get sworn in, and these psychopaths on the left, they just cower and, they hide for 4 years, but they'll never truly just go away. They're always going to kind of be there like, a small dog always nipping at your feet. So does anybody else have anything they'd like to add before we shift into the last part of this episode? Bueller, Colonel, anything?
No, sir.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
That last slide you had up there.
Yep.
So on the right side, how does somebody break in and steal that 3 Humvees and all that stuff? I mean, how does that happen?
Well, I think like what Mr. White alluded to, it's incompetence, and that is it was from a National Guard Army Reserve Center in Tustin, California.
But I mean, isn't there somebody there all the time?
That I'm not sure of. You would think there would be, especially most of these National Guard or Army Reserve sites, they have an armory. So I would think you probably have to have somebody there.
I mean, knowing what we know.
We were active duty folks, so we never did that weekend warrior stuff.
Like, it's so easy to break into this shit. The saying, a lock keeps an honest man honest.
Yeah.
Rings true. Like, these guys want to get through. Yeah, and well, the Humvees, they don't need keys. No, they just start. Yeah, so what you have inside of a Humvee is you have a cable that's bolted to the chassis, and it's looped through the steering wheel, and it's locked back on itself. So that's the only thing.
Bolt cutters.
So bolt cutters or somebody with decent lock picking skills, I think. I mean, we were taught how to pick locks, and within literally a couple hours, you can break through a very simple master lock with 6, 7, 8 tumblers. It's really not that complicated.
Mr. White, do you remember when we were training out in Texas and we borrowed the National Guard Humvees, and one of our teams returned one after they flipped it en route on the way back?
Yeah. But no, super easy. I mean,
It is.
I
super
literally
easy.
just
that
drove
place is
by.
out in the middle of nowhere, dude.
Yeah, I drove by one the other day on a road trip, and I was like, literally thought about how easy it would be to break into one of those and steal that equipment.
Yep.
And then half the time the cages and the bays don't even have locks on them. So.
But
Which is the wrong answer. This is
Look
what
like
we
you're
do.
supposed to be there, act like you're supposed to be there, and you're supposed to be there.
So, did you want to add something, Mr. Black? Did you notice something? Because that's too far for me to read. I can't see that.
It just says that an attempt was made to cut the lock to a uniform storage, but was unsuccessful. Why would they want the uniforms too? Are they trying to impersonate soldiers? And that kind of goes with the other. I didn't see it
The
on
Chicago incident.
They found the C4, the weapons, the passports,
Police uniforms,
Police
fire department uniforms.
Is this part of that same type of plan, maybe? Or
Yep.
I mean, when Larry brought this back up for the slide and mentioned it, what was going through my head too is like, you see a Humvee like that, and for most Americans, you're almost like in a disaster situation where, whether it's a hurricane, tornadoes, fires. If you see a Humvee coming down the road, you're going to be like, oh, thank God, help's on its way. And then what we were talking about earlier, where
imposters,
bandits get out.
Yeah, you've got your primary explosive that kicks off, and I mean we've seen it over the last 20 years. It goes off. What do we naturally do? We want to go in and help.
Run towards it.
We run towards it.
I did it on I-10 the other day with a camper that had just wrecked.
Really?
Yeah.
What
Actually,
happened?
there was another Green Beret there.
Really?
Yep.
What happened?
Looked like a small car cut off the camper. Camper flipped over on the passenger side, slid over into the ditch. I pulled over, ran over. There was a Walton County Fire Department person there, and then me and another SF dude.
Did they know about your Jerry Sage Soldier of the Cycle Award?
No, I didn't. We didn't get that deep in a conversation.
You know what? For doing that, Colonel, I'm going to give you a round of applause for that.
Yep.
But it really, I mean, that's how most. I think we're military folks in here, but I think deep down, most Americans, whether it's an accident on the side of a road or something that happens in your own neighborhood, we're willing to help and we want to kind of rush in. And if there is some nefarious activity going on with these vehicles and like what happened in Chicago and the taking down of the geofences, all the drone activity, the fires that are going on, it is, to me, the fog of war. And this is 21st century warfare that we have not really had a lot of experience in. And it just seems to be moving so fast, especially with, AI technology. And that's a whole nother dynamic that we haven't really seen. I mean, thank God we haven't, because I don't want to see any Terminator units coming down the road and having to deal with that. So keep your head on a swivel, America, and make sure that you're doing the right thing. And if you do see something, if something looks out of place, that the one thing that kills me is, we were talking a little bit before we started this about the Butler assassination attempt. We know nothing about this kid. He looks, I apologize, but he looks like a special needs kid that got duped into doing something, and we'll never know because he's dead. But the thing that really just bugs me is for 30 minutes, people were pointing that kid out to law enforcement, and they did nothing.
Yeah.
The reaction and response time was horse shit. And
he was already flagged for trying to probe with a rangefinder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in a drone, he flew a drone up.
Yeah.
How do you do that and not?
That's DEI.
Yeah.
Gross incompetence.
Yeah,
at every
I
level.
agree.
Yep.
And so it's a lot of speculation on our part, but it comes from a good place. We don't want to see people get hurt, and we want to make sure that if we see something that looks out of place, that we're saying something. So that's why we're doing that. But I wanted to end the show on a high note, and this week there was Bob Uecker passed, and I grew up as a Brewers fan. I remember as a young lad in the inner city of Milwaukee, skipping school to go to opening day because there was always free food. You know, people were always tailgating and stuff. So to close the show this evening, I would like to play a little tribute to Bob Uecker. And for those of you that have seen Major League, you'll know this scene. So with that being said, any final comments? Any recommendations? Any words of wisdom from anybody here before we call it this evening?
I couldn't help but notice they stole some bayonets, and it made me think about what makes the grass grow, Mr. White.
Blood.
Grass grow.
Yeah.
Because God loves the infantry.
Amen.
But
Amen.
on a serious note, get out there and train.
Yep. Yeah, we've I think all of us have been kind of more inclined to do training because of like what you guys have put out. Kind of, it made me like, I need to work on dry firing pistol because I'm not a very good pistol shooter, or even just getting in better shape.
Yeah.
It's good to have a group of good guys that it will kind of keep you accountable, and hopefully folks out there watching can or have people in their own inner circle where they'll kind of hold them accountable because, man, if the shit hits the fan, you don't want to be 60 pounds overweight, smoking a pack of Cools every day and eating like a bag of donuts like the ones that we were just eating. But we earned it, damn it. We've been putting in the work. So
it's just calories.
It's just calories. We're gonna burn them off. Anybody else? Last thoughts, comments? Okay.
Pray for a good inauguration.
Amen. Let's hope Trump gets in there. Let's hope he does what he says he's going to do, and Godspeed to him and his cabinet. And also pray to God that nothing bad happens over the course of the next couple days and into the future. We really do need to just change the whole dynamic of what's going on in the country, at least in my opinion, and maybe get back more on a spiritual path versus all this Hollywood bullshit and the darker side of being a human. So with that being said, thank you everybody for tuning in. You can check us out on the X Machine at Liberty Ape 76. And now for your viewing enjoyment, a little bit of Bob Uecker before we say goodnight, everybody.
Man, guy gets a second, first sign indicator. Vaughn, a juvenile delinquent in the offseason in his major league debut.
I'm gonna light your ass up, meat.
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed. Ball 4. Ball 8. Low, and Vaughn has walked the bases loaded on 12 straight pitches. Boy, how can these guys lay off pitches that close?